In a world where technological prowess often defines power, it is striking to note the small number of nations that possess nuclear weapons. While the ability to develop such weapons has become increasingly accessible, the vast majority of developed nations have chosen to abstain. This is not by accident. The decision to forego nuclear weapons is a complex one shaped by historical memory, strategic considerations, and a deep understanding of the devastating consequences of nuclear war. It is a decision rooted in the belief that global security is best served through cooperation, diplomacy, and a shared commitment to a world free from the threat of nuclear annihilation. The development and use of nuclear weapons marked a turning point in human history. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 unleashed a force of destruction never before seen, instantly killing hundreds of thousands of people and leaving a legacy of radiation and suffering in their wake. This unprecedented destructive power, coupled with the long-term consequences of nuclear fallout, cast a long shadow over international relations. It also served as a stark warning about the potential for human self-destruction, leading to a global movement to prevent the proliferation of these devastating weapons. The decision to acquire, or not acquire, nuclear weapons is rarely straightforward. For many nations, the choice is influenced by a complex interplay of factors, including security concerns, economic considerations, and domestic political dynamics. The specter of nuclear war, with its potential for unimaginable destruction, weighs heavily on the minds of leaders around the world. The international community has long recognized the need to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons, leading to the creation of a robust framework of treaties and agreements aimed at limiting the nuclear threat. The nuclear landscape is not static. The emergence of new technologies, shifting geopolitical alliances, and the potential for non-state actors to acquire nuclear materials all pose significant challenges. In this complex and ever-changing environment, understanding the reasons behind nuclear restraint is crucial for maintaining international peace and security. The choices made by nations today will determine the future of our planet, making it imperative to examine the motivations behind nuclear restraint and the ongoing efforts to prevent the spread of these catastrophic weapons. The world watched in horror as the United States unleashed the devastating power of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. These events, marking the end of World War II, ushered in a new era, the atomic age, and with it, a profound sense of unease. The images of the mushroom clouds, the flattened cities, and the horrific human toll served as a stark reminder of the destructive capacity of nuclear weapons. It became abundantly clear that the world had entered a dangerous new chapter, one where the potential for mass destruction could no longer be ignored. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki triggered a global race to develop nuclear weapons. The United States, initially the sole possessor of this terrifying technology, soon found itself locked in a Cold War rivalry with the Soviet Union, which successfully tested its own atomic bomb in 1949. This marked the beginning of a perilous arms race, where each superpower sought to outdo the other in terms of nuclear arsenal size and destructive capability. The world watched with bated breath, fearing a potential nuclear confrontation that could have catastrophic consequences for humanity. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. The discovery of Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from U.S. shores, sparked a tense 13-day standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union. President John F. Kennedy and Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev engaged in a high-stakes game of nuclear chicken, with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. The crisis was ultimately averted through diplomacy, but not before highlighting the very real dangers of nuclear confrontation. The Cuban Missile Crisis served as a wake-up call for the international community. The world had come perilously close to nuclear annihilation, a sobering reminder of the devastating consequences of such weapons. The crisis underscored the urgent need for international cooperation to prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons and to find peaceful solutions to global conflicts. It was clear that the stakes were too high and the potential for destruction too great to allow the world to stumble into nuclear war. In response to the growing threat of nuclear war, the international community came together to establish a framework for preventing the spread of nuclear weapons and promoting disarmament. The result was the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, commonly known as the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT. This landmark treaty, which entered into force in 1970, has served as the cornerstone of global non-proliferation efforts for over 5 decades. Its primary objective is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology, promote cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and further the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament and general and complete disarmament. The NPT is founded on 3 fundamental pillars: non-proliferation, disarmament, and the peaceful use of nuclear technology. The non-proliferation pillar aims to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons to non-nuclear weapon states. It obligates states that do not possess nuclear weapons to refrain from acquiring or developing them, while nuclear weapon states commit not to transfer nuclear weapons or assist others in their development. The disarmament pillar calls for good faith negotiations among all states parties, particularly the nuclear weapon states, to achieve the complete elimination of nuclear weapons. This pillar reflects the treaty's ultimate goal of a world free from the threat of nuclear annihilation. The peaceful use of nuclear technology pillar recognizes the right of all states to develop and use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, such as electricity generation, medicine, and agriculture. The treaty encourages international cooperation in these areas, under appropriate safeguards to ensure that nuclear materials and technology are not diverted to military purposes. This pillar reflects the understanding that nuclear technology, while potentially dangerous, can also be harnessed for the betterment of humanity. The NPT has been remarkably successful in preventing the widespread proliferation of nuclear weapons. Since its entry into force, only a handful of states have developed nuclear weapons outside the treaty, and the number of nuclear weapons globally has declined significantly from its peak during the Cold War. The treaty has also facilitated international cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, contributing to advancements in various fields. Despite its achievements, the NPT faces ongoing challenges, including the persistence of regional nuclear threats, the slow pace of disarmament, and the emergence of new technological challenges. The decision to forego nuclear weapons is often driven by a complex interplay of factors. For many nations, the potential consequences of nuclear proliferation, both in terms of security and international reputation, far outweigh any perceived benefits. The specter of nuclear war, with its unimaginable human and environmental costs, weighs heavily on the minds of leaders, particularly in the wake of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The international community has, for the most part, embraced the principles of non-proliferation and disarmament, recognizing that a world free from nuclear weapons is a safer world for all. Security alliances play a crucial role in the decision of many nations to forego nuclear weapons. By aligning themselves with nuclear-armed states, non-nuclear states can benefit from the security umbrella provided by their allies. This is particularly true for countries located in volatile regions or facing existential threats from neighboring states. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, for example, provides a collective security guarantee to its members, including many non-nuclear states in Europe. This alliance structure has been instrumental in preventing the spread of nuclear weapons in Europe since the end of the Cold War. The economic and diplomatic costs of pursuing nuclear weapons can be prohibitive for many nations. Developing, testing, and maintaining a nuclear arsenal is an expensive endeavor, diverting resources from other pressing national priorities such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Moreover, the acquisition of nuclear weapons often triggers international condemnation, leading to economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and damage to a country's international standing. The case of North Korea, which has faced crippling economic sanctions due to its pursuit of nuclear weapons, serves as a cautionary tale for other states considering the nuclear path. Domestic politics also play a significant role in shaping a nation's nuclear posture. In many democratic countries, public opinion strongly opposes the development or possession of nuclear weapons. Citizens and civil society organizations often mobilize against nuclear weapons programs, citing the ethical and humanitarian implications of these weapons of mass destruction. The anti-nuclear movement has been particularly influential in countries like Japan and Germany, where the horrors of nuclear war are deeply ingrained in the national consciousness.